Life hits us like that sometimes, doesn't it? And for years, I believed that being resilient meant never falling like that. Until one day in Turkey, I hit the mat so hard that it changed my life. A few years ago, I was competing for Team USA. And at that point in my life, I was a 2-time Paralympic bronze medalist, a world champion, and an athlete envoy for the U.S. State Department. My life was judo. My identity was judo. Everything that I understood about myself lived in that sport. And just before one of my matches, some friends from the German national team, they approached me and they warned me. They said, hey, this guy's really strong and he's going to try and throw you with sode. Now, if you don't know, sode is a throw that involves using your opponent's, both of their arms, to throw them. So at a certain point, there's not much you can do to defend yourself. Something else to also understand about my German friends, they don't spend a lot of time talking. If they do, they're probably talking trash. And if they give you match advice, you had better listen. So the match started. We gripped. We fought for position. Then everything disappeared. I was thrown directly on the top of my head, and the impact knocked me unconscious. When I woke up, I couldn't feel my right arm or my left leg. So there I was, lying on the mat in a foreign country, unable to move, thinking, this might be it. But thankfully, and eventually, movement came back. I'm not permanently paralyzed. But something in me did change. And surprisingly, the injury wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part came after. Because after that match, I retired. And when I left judo, I lost the thing that told me who I was. Because for years, I had been introduced as the blind Paralympic judoka, the medalist, the athlete. And then beyond that, I didn't really know who I was without it. I spent years learning how to survive physically, but I spent almost no time learning how to survive emotionally. And so maybe some of you understand that feeling. Maybe not through sport, but through life. Maybe you lost something. A relationship, a dream, a future that you were supposed to have. And then suddenly, you don't know who you are. For years I felt alone, lost. I was grieving. I was disconnected. I was drowning in sadness that I couldn't even explain. Because real talk, they don't really teach elite athletes how to become normal people again. You don't get a guidebook that says, here's how to rebuild your identity after the thing you dedicated years of your life to disappears. But somewhere, inside all of that confusion, I started teaching. Almost by accident. And at first I thought I was there to help kids. But then slowly, I realized they were helping me. Because when I was teaching emotional intelligence, I was finally starting to understand my own emotions. And for the first time in my life, I was starting to understand the language of the mind, the body, stress, trauma, connection, resilience. I studied psychology, sociology, emotional intelligence, and restorative practice. And then bit by bit, I began rebuilding myself. Not as an athlete, not as a medalist, but as a human being. And that's when I realized something. Something that completely changed the way I thought about judo. And judo had been teaching me these lessons the entire time. Because in judo, we do something very powerful. We learn how to fall, and we practice falling. And then eventually, we become strong.